The Romano estate rose from the Chicago suburbs like a fortress, all stone and iron gates and security cameras that tracked Sophie Martinez's every step as she walked up the long driveway. Her single suitcase felt heavier with each step. She needed this job. Her mother's medical bills were piling up back in Texas, and the Romano household paid triple what any other estate offered. There was a reason for that. She'd learned soon enough. Maria, the head housekeeper, met her at the servants' entrance. 55 years old with kind eyes that had seen too much. She took Sophie's suitcase and led her through corridors that smelled of lemon polish and old money. "You seem like a sweet girl," Maria said quietly. "So I'm going to give you the rules. When Miss Sterling is in the house, you make yourself invisible. You don't make eye contact. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't contradict her, question her, or even breathe too loudly near her. Do you understand?" Sophie's stomach tightened. Miss Sterling, Mr. Romano's fiancée, Victoria Sterling. Maria's voice dropped to a whisper. "She's difficult." That was the kindest way to describe Victoria Sterling. Sophie would discover. She met the other staff that first morning. There was Elena, 19 years old, who flinched at sudden movements. Carlos, the butler, who had perfected the art of looking through people rather than at them. Two other maids whose names Sophie didn't catch because they barely spoke above a whisper. They all had the same haunted look, the same tension in their shoulders, the same way of seeming to disappear into the wallpaper. She fired the last three maids. Elena whispered while showing Sophie the linen closet. One for folding a napkin wrong. One for humming while she cleaned. The last one for having an uppity look on her face. The girl's hands shook as she organized towels. "Just stay invisible. That's how you survive, Miss Sterling." Sophie wanted to ask more, but the entire household suddenly went rigid. She felt like a change in air pressure. Everyone tensing, straightening, becoming very still and very quiet. Victoria Sterling had arrived. She swept into the main hall like a hurricane in Chanel. 29 years old, model tall, blonde hair and a perfect chignon, wearing a dress that probably cost more than Sophie's mother's monthly medication. Beautiful in the way a knife is beautiful, all sharp edges and cold gleam. The staff scattered like mice before a cat. Sophie found herself in the main sitting room 20 minutes later, cleaning the marble fireplace, when she heard the screaming start. "Are you stupid? Are you actually stupid?" Sophie looked up. Through the doorway, she could see Victoria towering over Elena in the hallway. The young girl stood frozen, holding a silver tea tray, her whole body trembling. "I asked for Earl Grey. Earl Grey. This is English breakfast. Do you even know the difference, or are you too ignorant to tell tea apart?" "I'm so sorry, Miss Sterling. I'll get you to right." "Sorry? Sorry." Victoria's voice rose to a shriek. She grabbed the teacup and hurled it at the wall beside Elena's head. Porcelain exploded. Elena let out a small cry, tea splattering across her uniform. Sophie's hands clenched around her cleaning cloth. "You're worthless. Do you know that? Absolutely worthless. I should fire you right now. Send you back to whatever gutter you crawled out of." "Please, Miss Sterling, I'll fix it." "Please don't. Don't interrupt me when I'm speaking." Victoria raised her hand. Sophie didn't think. She just moved. She stepped between Victoria and Elena just as a hand came down. "Don't touch her." The hallway went silent. Absolutely silent. Sophie could hear her own heartbeat, could feel Elena frozen behind her, could see the other staff members who'd stopped, staring in horror from doorways. Victoria's hand hung in midair. She slowly lowered it, her blue eyes narrowing as she took in this new maid who'd just committed career suicide. "Excuse me?" Victoria's voice was ice. Sophie's hands were shaking, but she kept them at her sides. "I said don't touch her." Elena apologized. "She's gonna fix the tea. There's no need to hit her. Do you have any idea who I am?" "Yes, ma'am. You're Miss Victoria Sterling, Mr. Romano's fiancée." Sophie's voice was quiet but steady. "But that doesn't give you the right to assault people who work here." Victoria's face went from pale to scarlet. "How dare you? Is everything all right here?" The new voice was male, deep, quiet in a way that somehow filled the entire hallway. Sophie turned and felt her breath catch. Alessandro Romano stood in the doorway to his study. He was tall, at least 6'2", with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble. Sharp cheekbones, strong jaw, dark eyes that took in the scene with unsettling intensity. Victoria with her hand still raised. Sophie standing protectively in front of Elena, the shattered teacup on the floor, tea dripping down the wallpaper. How long had he been standing there? Victoria's transformation was instant and chilling. Her face softened. Her voice became honey-sweet. She even smiled. Alessandro, darling, nothing's wrong. Just a small issue with the staff. This new maid was incredibly disrespectful to me. I need you to fire her immediately. Alessandro's gaze moved to Sophie. She met his eyes, refusing to look away even though her heart hammered. She saw him taking a defensive stance, Elena cowering behind her, the broken porcelain on the marble floor. No, he said simply. Victoria blinked. What? She's not fired. Alessandro's voice remained quiet, almost gentle, which somehow made it more absolute. In fact, she's promoted. Personal maid to the estate. Maria, see to the paperwork. From somewhere behind Sophie, Maria's voice was barely audible. Yes, Mr. Romano. Victoria's mask cracked. You're choosing this. The servant over me? Your fiancée. I'm protecting my staff from abuse. There's a difference. Alessandro looked at Victoria with eyes that held no warmth. We'll discuss this privately. Later. It wasn't a request. He walked away, footsteps echoing down the hall. After a moment, Victoria followed, her heels clicking like gunshots, fury radiating from every line of her body. The hallway erupted into whispers the moment she was gone. Sophie turned to Elena. The girl was crying silently, shaking so hard she could barely stand. Sophie took the tea tray from her hands, set it on a side table, and pulled her into a hug. It's okay. You're okay. I've got you. Maria appeared at Sophie's elbow. Come with me, both of you. In the staff kitchen, Maria poured tea with hands that trembled slightly. The other staff members filtered in, staring at Sophie like she just wrestled a bear. Do you have any idea what you just did? Maria asked quietly. I stopped her from hitting Elena. You challenged Victoria Sterling. Nobody challenges Victoria Sterling. Maria sat down heavily. She's going to make your life hell. She's going to do everything in her power to get you fired or force you to quit. Then she'll have to work hard, Sophie said, because I'm not going anywhere. Elena grabbed Sophie's hand. Thank you. Nobody's ever stood up for me before. Someone should have. Sophie squeezed back. A long time ago. That night, in her small room on the 3rd floor, Sophie unpacked her suitcase and tried to calm her racing heart. She could still hear Victoria's voice echoing through the estate, raise an argument with Alessandro. Couldn't make out the words, but the fury was clear. She'd made an enemy today, a powerful, vindictive enemy who had the power to make her life miserable. But she'd also done the right thing. And somewhere in this massive house, Alessandro Romano was defending a maid he'd just met over the woman he was supposed to marry. Sophie didn't know what to make of that. She fell asleep thinking about dark eyes that had seen everything, and a quiet voice that had said, she's not fired, like it was the simplest decision in the world. Victoria started her campaign the next morning. Sophie was assigned to clean Victoria's private suite, a task that would normally go to the most senior maid. But Maria's apologetic look told Sophie exactly what this was. Punishment detail. The suite was massive. Bedroom, sitting room, walk-in closet the size of Sophie's entire room, bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. Everything white and cream and gold, like living inside a wedding cake. You missed a spot, Victoria said in the sitting room doorway. Sophie looked at the section of marble she'd just scrubbed. It gleamed. I don't see. Are you arguing with me? Sophie bit back her response. No, Miss Sterling. I'll clean it again. And the windows, they're streaked. They weren't. Sophie had cleaned them twice already. Yes, Miss Sterling. And when you're done, remake the bed. The corners aren't hospital crisp. This went on for 3 hours. Every task done and redone. Every surface inspected and found wanting. Victoria sat in her chair like a queen, pointing out microscopic flaws, her voice dripping with disdain. Tell me, Sophia, it is Sophia, isn't it? Where did you work before this? At a hotel in Texas, Miss Sterling. How quaint. And before that, I helped my mother clean houses. Ah, so cleaning is in your blood. How convenient, though clearly not competence. Victoria examined her perfect manicure. You know what I think? I think you're here because you couldn't make it anywhere else. You're bottom of the barrel. And Alessandro took pity on you. Sophie kept scrubbing. If you say so, Miss Sterling. I do say so. And I also say that you made a terrible mistake yesterday, embarrassing me in front of the staff, making Alessandro choose sides. Victoria's voice went cold. Nobody embarrasses me and stays employed here. You'll quit within the week. They always do. I don't quit easily, Miss Sterling. We'll see. The campaign intensified over the next several days. Victoria, accidentally, spilled her coffee across the table Sophie had just cleaned, demanded Sophie reorganize her entire closet by color, then by designer, then by color again, sent her across the estate for things that didn't exist, criticized everything from her appearance. Do you own an iron? Those clothes are a disgrace. To her accent, that Texas drawl is so common. Sophie endured it all with quiet dignity. The other staff watched in awe and pity. Elena tried to help when she could, taking over some of Sophie's regular duties, so she could handle Victoria's impossible demands. Maria slipped her extra food. You're getting too thin, Mija. Carlos pulled her aside one morning. She's going to break you or frame you. Those are the only two ways this ends. I've seen it before. She won't break me, Sophie said. Everyone breaks eventually. Not me. On day 6, Sophie was cleaning Victoria's sitting room when she noticed a jewelry box on the side table. Open, diamond bracelet missing. Her blood went cold. She checked under the furniture, in the cushions, everywhere. Nothing. That evening, Victoria called an emergency staff meeting in the main hall. Alessandro was there too, standing by the fireplace with an unreadable expression. I want to give everyone a chance to do the right thing, Victoria announced to the assembled staff. My diamond bracelet is missing. It's worth $50,000. If whoever took it returns it now, I won't press charges. Silence. Confused looks. No? Well then, I suppose we'll have to search everyone's rooms. Victoria's eyes landed on Sophie, starting with the newest Maid. Sophie's heart sank. They found it in her nightstand drawer, wrapped in tissue paper, placed carefully beneath her few personal belongings. Well, Victoria said, pulling it out with a triumphant smile. Sophia Martinez, I'm so disappointed. I gave you a chance. I didn't take that, Sophie said quietly. I've never seen it before. It's in your room, because someone put it there. Victoria turned to Alessandro. See? She's not even remorseful. Fire her, immediately, and call the police. Alessandro stepped forward. He took the bracelet from Victoria's hand, examined it, then looked at Sophie, those dark eyes searching her face. Did you take this? He asked. Sophie met his gaze. No, sir, I didn't. She's lying, Victoria snapped. Sophie, Alessandro said, ignoring Victoria, look at me and tell me the truth. I am looking at you, Mr. Romano, and I'm telling you the truth. I didn't take that bracelet. I would never steal from anyone. He studied her for another long moment. Then he turned to Maria. What time did the cleaning rotation have Sophia in Victoria's suite? 2 to 5 p.m., sir. And the bracelet was noticed missing? Miss Sterling reported it at 6 p.m., Maria said quietly. Alessandro pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, frowned. Victoria, come here. What? Come here. Now. Victoria approached, confusion flickering across her face. Alessandro turned his phone screen toward her. Security footage from a hallway camera. Time stamp 5:47 p.m. That's you entering Sophia's room with something in your hand. That's you leaving 90 seconds later. empty-handed. The silence was deafening. Victoria's face went white, then red. I wanted to. You planted evidence to frame her. Alessandro's voice was soft. Dangerous. In my house. To my employee. After I specifically told you to leave her alone. She embarrassed me. She needs to learn. The only person who needs to learn something here is you. He looked at the assembled staff. Everyone back to work. Victoria, my study. Now! The staff scattered. Sophie stood frozen, processing what just happened. Maria squeezed her shoulder. Mr. Romano reviewed security footage. He knew before the meeting even started. Victoria started her campaign the next morning. Sophie was assigned to clean Victoria's private suite, a task that would normally go to the most senior maid. But Maria's apologetic look told Sophie exactly what this was. Punishment detail. The suite was massive. Bedroom, sitting room, walk-in closet the size of Sophie's entire room, bathroom with a tub that could fit 4 people. Everything white and cream and gold, like living inside a wedding cake. You missed a spot, Victoria said from the sitting room doorway. Sophie looked at the section of marble she'd just scrubbed. It gleamed. I don't see. Are you arguing with me? Sophie bit back her response. No, Miss Sterling. I'll clean it again. And the windows, they're streaked. They weren't. Sophie had cleaned them twice already. Yes, Miss Sterling. And when you're done, remake the bed. The corners aren't hospital, Chris. This went on for 3 hours. Every task done and redone. Every surface inspected and found wanting. Victoria sat in her chair like a queen, pointing out microscopic flaws, her voice dripping with disdain. Tell me, Sophia, it is Sophia, isn't it? Where did you work before this? At a hotel in Texas, Miss Sterling. How quaint. And before that, I helped my mother clean houses. Ah, so cleaning is in your blood. How convenient, though clearly not competence. Victoria examined her perfect manicure. You know what I think? I think you're here because you couldn't make it anywhere else. You're bottom of the barrel. And Alessandro took pity on you. Sophie kept scrubbing. If you say so, Miss Sterling. I do say so. And I also say that you made a terrible mistake yesterday. Embarrassing me in front of the staff. Making Alessandro choose sides. Victoria's voice went cold. Nobody embarrasses me and stays employed here. You'll quit within the week. They always do. I don't quit easily, Miss Sterling. We'll see. The campaign intensified over the next several days. Victoria accidentally spilled her coffee across a table Sophie had just cleaned. Demanded Sophie reorganize her entire closet by color, then by designer, then by color again. Sent her across the estate for things that didn't exist. Criticized everything from her appearance. Do you own an iron? Those clothes are a disgrace. To her accent, that Texas drawl is so common. Sophie endured it all with quiet dignity. The other staff watched in awe and pity. Elena tried to help when she could, taking over some of Sophie's regular duties, so she could handle Victoria's impossible demands. Maria slipped her extra food. You're getting too thin, Mija. Carlos pulled her aside one morning. She's going to break you or frame you. Those are the only 2 ways this ends. I've seen it before. She won't break me, Sophie said. Everyone breaks eventually. Not me. On day 6, Sophie was cleaning Victoria's sitting room when she noticed a jewelry box on the side table. Open. Diamond bracelet missing. Her blood went cold. She checked under the furniture, in the cushions, everywhere. Nothing. That evening, Victoria called an emergency staff meeting in the main hall. Alessandro was there too, standing by the fireplace with an unreadable expression. I want to give everyone a chance to do the right thing, Victoria announced to the assembled staff. My diamond bracelet is missing. It's worth $50,000. If whoever took it returns it now, I won't press charges. Silence. Confused looks. No? Well then, I suppose we'll have to search everyone's rooms. Victoria's eyes landed on Sophie, starting with the newest maid. Sophie's heart sank. They found it in her nightstand drawer, wrapped in tissue paper. placed carefully beneath her few personal belongings. "Well, well," Victoria said, pulling it out with a triumphant smile. "Sophia Martinez, I'm so disappointed. I gave you a chance." "I didn't take that," Sophie said quietly. "I've never seen it before. It's in your room, because someone put it there." Victoria turned to Alessandro. "See? She's not even remorseful. Fire her, immediately, and call the police." Alessandro stepped forward. He took the bracelet from Victoria's hand, examined it, then looked at Sophie, those dark eyes searching her face. "Did you take this?" he asked. Sophie met his gaze. "No, sir, I didn't." "She's lying," Victoria snapped. "Sophie," Alessandro said, ignoring Victoria, "look at me and tell me the truth." "I am looking at you, Mr. Romano, and I'm telling you the truth. I didn't take that bracelet. I would never steal from anyone." He studied her for another long moment. Then he turned to Maria. "What time did the cleaning rotation have Sophia in Victoria's suite?" 2 to 5 p.m., sir." "And the bracelet was noticed missing?" "Miss Sterling reported it at 6 p.m., Maria said quietly. Alessandro pulled out his phone, tapped a few buttons, frowned. "Victoria, come here." "What?" "Come here. Now." Victoria approached, confusion flickering across her face. Alessandro turned his phone screen toward her. Security footage from the hallway camera. Timestamp 5:47 p.m. That's you entering Sophia's room, with something in your hand. That's you leaving 90 seconds later, empty-handed. The silence was deafening. Victoria's face went white, then red. I wanted to... You planted evidence to frame her." Alessandro's voice was soft. "Dangerous. In my house. To my employee. After I specifically told you to leave her alone. She embarrassed me. She needs to learn. The only person who needs to learn something here is you." He looked at the assembled staff. "Everyone back to work. Victoria, my study. Now." The staff scattered. Sophie stood frozen, processing what just happened. Maria squeezed her shoulder. Mr. Romano reviewed security footage. He knew before the meeting even started. Then why? He wanted Victoria to expose herself. Wanted witnesses. Maria smiled grimly. "He's protecting you. Has been from the start." From Alessandro's study, raised voices. Victoria's getting louder. Alessandro's getting quieter and more cutting. Sophie should have felt relieved, vindicated. Instead, she felt the weight of what was happening. Alessandro was choosing her, a maid he barely knew, over his fiancée, publicly, repeatedly. And judging by Victoria's shrieking, that wasn't going to end well for anyone. That night, Sophie found a note slipped under her door. "You're braver than you know. Don't let her break that. Yar." She folded it carefully and put it in her pocket. Somewhere in this enormous house, a Mafia boss was defending her against his own fiancée. She didn't understand why. Didn't understand what game was being played. But she understood one thing. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Sophie stood up to the Mafia boss's cruel fiancé and survived. But Victoria Sterling doesn't forgive, and she never forgets. What happens when a woman who's used to getting everything she wants sets her sights on destroying the maid who dared to challenge her? If you're hooked on this story of courage versus cruelty, smash that subscribe button for echoed true stories. Hit like if you think Sophie is the bravest woman in this house. Comment. Have you ever stood up to someone powerful even though you were terrified? Would you risk everything to protect someone else? Turn on notifications because next chapter is where everything changes. Sophie and Alessandro grow closer, and Victoria's jealousy reaches a dangerous new level. 2 weeks after the bracelet incident, Sophie had settled into a strange routine. Victoria's cruelty had shifted from overt attacks to subtle psychological warfare, impossible standards, constant criticism, the occasional accident like spilled wine that needed immediate cleaning. Nothing Sophie could prove, nothing Alessandro could intervene in without seeming unreasonable. But Sophie noticed things. She noticed that Alessandro was around more, not obviously, but she'd turn while cleaning the library and find him there reading. She'd be polishing silver in the dining room, and he'd appear to review paperwork at the table. Close enough to help if Victoria appeared. Never intrusive, just present. She also noticed the tension in the house. Alessandro and Victoria barely spoke to each other anymore, except in front of his father Giovanni, and even then, the silences were loud. It all came to a head on a Wednesday night. Sophie was finishing her duties around midnight. She'd taken a late shift to avoid Victoria's daytime harassment. When she passed Alessandro's study and saw light under the door, she should have kept walking. Instead, she knocked softly. "Come in." Alessandro sat behind his massive desk, tie loosened, jacket discarded, sleeves rolled up, 3 fingers of whiskey in a crystal glass. Paper spread everywhere. He looked exhausted. "I'm sorry to disturb you, Mr. Romano. I saw the light and wanted to make sure you didn't need anything before I finished the night." "You worked too late," he said quietly. "Better late than during Miss Sterling's waking hours." Something flickered across his face. "Is it that bad?" Sophie hesitated. "I've had worse jobs." "That's not an answer. With respect, sir, it's the only answer I can give." He studied her for a long moment. Then he gestured to the chair across from his desk. "Sit, please." Sophie glanced at the door. "I don't think Miss Sterling would. I don't particularly care what Victoria thinks right now. Sit." She sat. Alessandro poured another whiskey, slid across the desk to her. "You stood between her and Elena your first day." "Why?" "Because she was about to hit a teenager over tea. Most people would have looked away. I'm not most people. I've noticed." He took a drink. "Why do you stay? You could work anywhere. Better places than this. This job pays triple what anywhere else would offer. My mother is sick. Stage for cancer. The treatments are expensive, and she doesn't have insurance." Sophie met his eyes. "I stay because I have to, but also because I refuse to let Victoria Sterling chase me away." "Stubbornness or principle?" "Both." Alessandro almost smiled. "I'm engaged to a woman I despise. Did you know that?" Sophie's breath caught. "Sir, I don't think. It's an arranged marriage. Our families have been negotiating for 2 years. Her father controls the port shipments. My father wants the alliance. I want—" He stopped, drank. "It doesn't matter what I want. It should matter. Should it?" He looked at her with those dark eyes. "I'm the head of a crime family, Sophia. I don't get to choose based on want. I choose based on strategy. Survival. Power. That sounds lonely." The words slipped out before Sophie could stop them. She tensed, waiting for him to be angry. Instead, Alessandro laughed. Actually laughed. "Lonely. Yes, that's one word for it." They sat in silence for a moment. Sophie sipped the whiskey, expensive, smooth, nothing like what she could afford. "Why did you protect me?" she asked quietly. "Against Victoria. The first day, and with the bracelet. You could have just let her fire me. Because you did the right thing. And in my world, that's rare enough to be worth protecting. I'm just a maid. You're someone with principles. That makes you valuable beyond your job description." He stood, moved to the window overlooking the grounds. "I've been trapped in this engagement for so long, I forgot what it looked like when someone actually stood up for what was right instead of what was profitable." Sophie joined him at the window. She shouldn't. She knew she shouldn't. But something pulled her forward. "What would you do?" she asked. "If you weren't trapped, if you could choose." "I'd walk away. From all of it. The business. The family obligations. The arranged marriage to a woman who takes pleasure in hurting people weaker than her." He turned to look at Sophie. "I'd choose something real." The air between them shifted, charged. Sophie became acutely aware of how close they were standing, how his dark eyes had softened, looking at her, how her heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. "Mr. Romano." "Alessandro. When it's just us, call me Alessandro. That's not appropriate. Neither is any of this." He reached out, almost touched her face, then pulled his hand back. "You should go, before I do something we'll both regret." Sophie should have listened, should have left. Instead, she asked, "Would you regret it?" "Yes." Because you'd be the first target. If Victoria even suspected I had feelings for you, if my father thought I was compromised, you'd disappear. That's how this world works. The words should have scared her. They did scare her. But they also made her heart ache for this man who had everything except freedom. I should go, she whispered. Yes. Neither of them moved. The door burst open. Victoria stood there, eyes wild, taking in the scene. Alessandro and Sophie standing close at the window, the late hour, the intimate lighting, the whiskey glasses. Well, Victoria said, her voice like a whip crack, isn't this cozy? Alessandro stepped away from Sophie immediately. Victoria, it's late. What do you want? What do I want? I want to know why my fiancé is entertaining the help in his study at midnight. She advanced on Sophie. What did I tell you about knowing your place? We were just talking, Sophie started. You don't get to talk. Victoria's hand came up fast. The slap echoed in the study. Sophie's had snapped to the side, cheek exploding with pain. She tasted blood where her teeth had cut her inner cheek. Alessandro's control shattered. Get out! His voice was cold. Lethal. Now! Victoria pointed at Sophie. She's seducing you. Can't you see that? She's trying to. I said get out. Alessandro's roar made both women flinch. You just struck someone in my house. In front of me. Get out before I forget we're engaged. If you think you can break this engagement over some maid, try me. Victoria's face went white. My father will start a war. Your precious family will burn. And she jabbed a finger at Sophie. She'll be the first casualty. I'll make sure of it. She swept out, slamming the door so hard a painting rattled on the wall. Sophie stood frozen, one hand pressed to her burning cheek. Alessandro was in front of her in 2 strides. Let me see. I'm fine. You're bleeding. Let me see. Gently, so gently, he tilted her face toward the light. His jaw clenched when he saw the rapidly forming bruise, the split in her lip where she'd bitten it. He retrieved ice from the bar, wrapped in a cloth, pressed it to her cheek. His other hand cupped the back of her head, holding her steady. They were close again, closer than before. I'm sorry, he said quietly. This is my fault. I should have sent you away when you knocked. Should have maintained distance. Now she's going to make you pay for something that was entirely innocent. Was it? Sophie asked. Entirely innocent? Alessandro's eyes met hers. No. The admission hung in the air between them. I'm falling for you, he said simply. Have been since you stepped between Victoria and Elena. And I can't act on it because if I pursue this, if I choose you over her, people will die. Victoria's family will retaliate. You'll be the first target. His thumb brushed her uninjured cheek. So I'm asking you to stay away from me, for your own safety. And if I don't want to, then you're braver and more foolish than I thought. Sophie reached up, covered his hand with hers. I'm a maid who stood up to a Mafia princess on my first day. Brave and foolish kind of finds me. Alessandro made a sound, half laugh, half groan. This can't happen. I know. You need to stay safe. I know that too. They stood there, ice melting between them, hearts breaking in unison, both knowing they'd already crossed a line they couldn't uncross. Finally, Alessandro stepped back. Professional distance restored, though his eyes told a different story. Go to your room. Lock the door. If Victoria tries anything, you come directly to me. Understood? Yes, sir. Alessandro, he corrected softly. Alessandro. Sophie left before she could do something really stupid. Like kiss him. Like tell him she was falling too. Like forget all the very good reasons this could never work. In her room, she locked the door and touched her bruised cheek. It throbbed in time with her heartbeat. She was in love with Alessandro Romano, and loving him might be the most dangerous thing she'd ever done. Victoria's campaign of terror escalated overnight. Rumors started spreading through the household. Sophie was seducing Alessandro. Sophie was a gold digger. Sophie had tried to steal Victoria's jewelry and been caught. Some of the staff who'd previously been sympathetic started giving Sophie cold looks. Carlos stopped making conversation. One of the other maids accidentally knocked Sophie's lunch tray to the floor. Maria remained loyal. So did Elena. But Sophie could feel the house turning against her. Then the accident started. A loose carpet on the main staircase that Sophie nearly tripped over. Cleaning solution in an unmarked bottle that burned her hands. Her door lock mysteriously broken. Her room ransacked while she worked. Each incident had Victoria's fingerprints all over it, but nothing Sophie could prove. Alessandro knew. She could see it in his face when he looked at her. The guilt, the fury, the helplessness. But his hands were tied. Without proof, without breaking the engagement. He couldn't protect her from his fiancée's subtle warfare. Until the stairs. Sophie was carrying linens to the second floor, arms full, when she felt hands on her back. A hard shove. She tumbled forward, linens flying, the world spinning. Hit the landing hard, pain exploding through her wrist and ribs. She lay there gasping, trying to breathe through the agony. Above her, at the top of the stairs, Victoria stood perfectly composed. Oh my goodness. Sophie, are you all right? You really should be more careful on these stairs. They can be treacherous. No one else in the hallway. No witnesses. Just Victoria's cold smile and Sophie's certainty that this had been deliberate. Maria found her 15 minutes later, helped her to her feet. Sophie's wrist was sprained, her ribs bruised. The estate doctor examined her, gave her painkillers, told her to rest. Alessandro appeared in her room that evening. Maria let him in, then left him alone despite protocol. Did she push you? He asked quietly. Sophie hesitated. I don't have proof. That's not what I asked. Yes, she pushed me. Alessandro's face went cold. This ends. Now. How? She'll just deny it. There were no witnesses. Then I find another way. He paced her small room like a caged animal. My father wants to move up the wedding. Next month instead of next spring. He thinks the sooner we're married, the sooner the Port Alliance is secure. Sophie's chest tightened. Congratulations. Don't. Alessandro stopped pacing. I'm not marrying her. I can't. Not after everything. Not knowing what she is. Breaking the engagement means war between your families. Only if I break it without cause. If I have legitimate proof of wrongdoing, proof her own father would have to accept, then the alliance fails on her merits, not mine. Sophie understood. You need evidence. I need evidence. What kind? Alessandro sat on the edge of her bed, careful not to jostle her injuries. Victoria has been skimming from joint business accounts. Small amounts, but consistent. She's also been conducting affairs, plural, with men connected to families that are rivals to both the Romanos and the Sterlings. If her father knew, he'd be furious. Betrayal of the alliance before it's even formalized. How do you know this? I've been watching her for weeks. Since the bracelet incident. But I need solid proof. Paper trail. Photos. Something her father can't dismiss or explain away. Sophie sat up despite the pain. What do you need me to do? Nothing. You've done enough. You've been hurt enough. Alessandro. She took his hand. What do you need me to do? He looked at their joined hands. She keeps records. Personal laptop. Always locked in her suite. If we can access it, download the files. He shook his head. No, it's too dangerous. If she catches you, she won't catch me. Sophie, you said it yourself. This ends now. Either we find the evidence and you break the engagement legitimately, or you marry her next month and I watch her kill me slowly through accidents. Sophie squeezed his hand. I heard her on the phone yesterday. After she pushed me, she was talking to someone about cleaning house after the wedding, about getting rid of staff who've been problematic. Alessandro's jaw clenched. She's planning to have you killed. And probably Elena. Maybe Maria. Anyone she thinks disrespected her. Sophie met his eyes. So yes, I'll help you get the evidence. Because if I don't, I'm dead anyway. They planned it carefully. Victoria had a standing appointment every Wednesday. Spa day with her society friends. 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. She'd take her car, her phone, her purse. Leave the laptop in her suite lock safe. Alessandro had a copy of the safe key. Perks of owning the house. The following Wednesday, Sophie waited until Victoria's car pulled away. Then she went to the suite with her cleaning supplies. Perfectly normal. In case anyone saw her, Alessandro met her there. Opened the safe. Retrieved the laptop. "I can't stay," he said quietly. "If we're seen together in her suite, she'll know. But I'll be watching on security cameras. Any sign of her coming back early, I'll call you." He left. Sophie booted up the laptop. No password on the business files folder. Arrogant. Stupid. Sophie plugged in the flash drive Alessandro had given her. Started downloading. Financial records. Email correspondence. Photos of Victoria with men Sophie didn't recognize, in hotels and restaurants. Clearly intimate. The download bar crept slowly. 10%. 20. Sophie's phone buzzed. "Alessandro, hurry." Her car turned around. 15 minutes out. Sophie's heart hammered. 40%. 50. The files were enormous. Emails with attachments. High-resolution photos. 70%. She could hear footsteps in the hallway. Voices. 85%. The car in the driveway. Door slamming. 98%. Victoria's voice. "I forgot my credit card. This will only take a minute." Complete. Sophie yanked the flash drive, shut down the laptop, threw in the safe, spun the dial. She grabbed her cleaning supplies just as Victoria's heels clicked outside the suite door. The door opened. Victoria stopped, stared at Sophie. "What are you doing in here?" "Cleaning, Miss Sterling. It's Wednesday, your usual cleaning day." Victoria's eyes narrowed. She looked at the safe. Back at Sophie. At the cleaning supplies. "Get out." "Yes, Miss Sterling." Sophie left on shaking legs, flash drive burning in her pocket. She made it to Alessandro's study, locked the door behind her, handed him the drive. "Got it." He plugged it into his computer. Opened the files. His expression darkened as he read. "This is worse than I thought. She's not just having affairs. She's feeding information to the Moretti family. Business deals, shipment schedules, security details. She's a spy. She's an idiot who thinks she's playing both sides." Alessandro kept scrolling. "And she's been embezzling from her own father's accounts, not just the joint ones. Blaming losses on market conditions. If he sees this, he'll disown her. He'll do worse than that." Alessandro looked up. "This is enough. More than enough. Victoria Sterling is about to learn what happens when you betray both families." He made the call that night. To Victoria's father. Sent the files. The explosion was spectacular. Michael Sterling arrived at the Romano estate at midnight with 4 of his men. Victoria was dragged from her bed, forced to sit in Giovanni's study, while both family heads reviewed the evidence. Sophie heard the screaming from 3 floors up. By morning, it was over. Victoria Sterling was no longer Alessandro Romano's fiancée. She was no longer part of the Sterling family. Her father had disowned her, frozen her accounts, and given her 24 hours to leave Chicago. The engagement was broken. The alliance was maintained. The Sterlings would find another way to secure the port access. Victoria left in disgrace, escorted by her father's men to ensure she actually got on the plane to New York. She paused in the foyer, surrounded by her packed bags, and looked up to where Sophie stood on the second-floor landing. "This isn't over," Victoria said coldly. "You think you won? You're still just a maid. He'll never marry you. You'll never be anything more than the help who got lucky." Sophie said nothing. Victoria left. The house breathed a collective sigh of relief. But Sophie's chest felt tight, because Victoria was right about one thing. Sophie was still just a maid, and Alessandro was still a Mafia boss. And nothing about that had changed. Victoria is gone, but the story isn't over. Sophie helped Alessandro escape a nightmare engagement, but now what? Can a Mafia boss and a maid really have a future together? Or did Sophie risk everything just to stay exactly where she started? If you're desperate to know what happens next, subscribe to Echo True Stories right now. Smash that like button if you think Alessandro should choose Sophie. Comment. Could you fall in love with someone from a completely different world? Would you risk it all for real love? The final chapter is coming, and you will not believe how this ends. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a conclusion of Sophie's brave journey. 2 weeks after Victoria's departure, Sophie gave her notice. Maria found her in the linen closet, crying quietly while folding sheets. "What's this?" Maria held up the resignation letter. "I'm leaving. End of the month." "Because of her?" "Sophie, she's gone. You're safe now." "It's not about Victoria." Sophie wiped her eyes. "I can't stay here. Not anymore." "Does this have anything to do with Mr. Romano?" Sophie's silence was answer enough. Maria sat beside her on the storage bench. "You love him." "It doesn't matter. I'm a maid. He's a Mafia boss. We helped each other with Victoria. But that's all it was. A temporary alliance." Sophie folded another sheet with shaking hands. "I need to go home to my mother. Need to find work where I don't see him every day and remember what I can't have." "Have you told him?" "I left a letter on his desk this morning." And nothing. He probably hasn't even read it yet. Alessandro had read it. He'd read it 3 times. Actually, sitting at his desk, trying to figure out how everything had gone so wrong. Victoria was gone. The engagement was broken. He was free, and Sophie was leaving. He found her that evening in the garden, sitting on the stone bench where he'd found her crying after one of Victoria's attacks. She looked up when she heard his footsteps, quickly wiping her eyes. "You're leaving?" he said. "Yes." "Why?" Sophie laughed, but it sounded broken. "You're seriously asking me why?" "I'm asking because I don't understand. Victoria is gone. You're safe here. The other staff adores you. Maria would make you head housekeeper in a heartbeat. Why leave?" "Because I can't do this anymore." Sophie stood, facing him. "I can't see you every day and pretend I don't feel what I feel. I can't watch you live your life, knowing I'll never be part of it. I can't." Her voice cracked. "I can't stay in love with someone I can't have." Alessandro went very still. "Say that again." "Which part?" "The part about being in love with me." Sophie closed her eyes. "Alessandro." "Say it, please." "I'm in love with you." "There. Happy?" "I'm in love with the Mafia boss who I clean for. I'm in love with a man who lives in a different world than I do. I'm in love with someone I can never have." She opened her eyes, and they were filled with tears. And Victoria was right. "I'm still just a maid. I'll never be anything more than that to you." Alessandro crossed the distance between them in 3 strides. "Don't you dare," he said fiercely. "Don't you dare let her poison get into your head. You're not just anything." "Then what am I?" "Because from where I'm standing, nothing's changed. Victoria's gone, but you're still a Romano and I'm still someone who cleans your house. You're the woman I'm in love with." Sophie's breath caught. Alessandro cupped her face in his hands. "You're the bravest person I've ever met. You're the woman who stood between a bully and her victim on your first day. You're the person who helped me escape a nightmare engagement. You're the only one who sees me. Not my name, not my money, not my power. Just me." His thumb brushed away her tears. "And I'm asking you not to leave. Not yet. Not until you hear what I have to say. Alessandro, we can't. I'm leaving the family." Sophie froze. "What?" "I'm transferring leadership to Luca, my brother. He's been ready for years. My father knows. We've already started the transition." Alessandro's eyes searched hers. "I'm keeping only the legitimate businesses. Walking away from the rest. It'll take time, months, maybe a year. But I'm doing it." "Why?" "Because I don't want this life anymore. I never wanted it. I inherited it when my father decided his oldest son should take over. But Luca is better suited for it. Smarter, more strategic. He actually enjoys the game." Alessandro pulled her closer. "I want something real. A life I choose, not one chosen for me. And I want it with you." Sophie shook her head, even as hope bloomed in her chest. "Your family will never accept." "My family will accept what I tell them to accept. And if they don't, I'll walk away from all of it. The money, the name, everything. You can't do that for me. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me. You just gave me the courage to finally choose. He pressed his forehead to hers. Sophie, I'm not asking you to be my mistress or my secret. I'm asking you to be my wife. Wife, Sophie whispered. Marry me. Let me walk away from this world with you. We'll start somewhere new. Somewhere normal. I have enough money in legitimate investments that will be comfortable. You can do whatever you want. Go back to school, start a business, anything. I just want a life with you in it. This is crazy. Probably. Your father will be furious. He'll get over it. Eventually. What if you regret it? Giving up everything for her. For the woman I love? Never. Alessandro kissed her softly. But I need to know, is this what you want? Not obligation, not gratitude. Do you want this? Want me? Sophie kissed him back. Longer, deeper, pouring everything she felt into it. Yes, she breathed when they broke apart. Yes, I want this. Want you. I'm terrified and it's completely insane, but yes. Alessandro's smile was brilliant. Then we do it right. I talked to my father tonight. We announce it properly. No secrets, no shame. You're going to be my wife, and I want the whole world to know. The conversation with Giovanni Romano went about as well as expected. You're walking away from the family for a maid? Giovanni thundered. I'm walking away from the family because I choose to, and I'm marrying the woman I love. Alessandro stood firm. Luca is better suited to lead. You know it. I know it. This is an abandonment. It's recognizing who's best equipped for the job. Luca, standing beside Alessandro, nodded. I've been ready for years, father. Let him go. Let him have a real life. And what makes you think this girl is the right choice? What do you even know about her? I know she's brave. I know she has principles. I know she stood up to Victoria Sterling when grown men in this house cowered. Alessandro's voice softened. I know she makes me want to be a better man. Isn't that what Mother always said? That the right woman makes you better. Giovanni's expression flickered. His late wife's name still held power. She's not from our world. Good. Our world is violent and corrupt and lonely. I want something different. The old man studied his son for a long moment, then sighed. You're sure about this? Once you walk away, there's no coming back. Not to leadership. I'm sure. Then you have my blessing. But I'm not paying for a lavish wedding. Alessandro smiled. We don't want lavish. We want real. They married 4 weeks later in a small chapel on the edge of the city. No Mafia families. No business associates. Just the people who mattered. Maria stood as Sophie's maid of honor, tears streaming down her face. Elena was a bridesmaid, barely able to contain her joy. Lucas stood as Alessandro's best man, proud and supportive. And in the front row, in a wheelchair because the chemo left her weak, Sophie's mother Lucia wept happy tears. Her medical bills were paid. Her daughter was marrying for love. She'd lived to see grandchildren. Sophie wore a simple white dress, nothing like the designer gown Victoria would have demanded. Alessandro wore a suit, no tux. They spoke their vows in voices that shook with emotion. I promise to see you, Sophie said. Not your name or your past. Just you. I promise to choose you, Alessandro said. Every day, for the rest of my life. They kissed, and the small chapel erupted in applause. 6 months later, Sophie stood in the kitchen of their modest home, 3 bedrooms, small yard, in a quiet neighborhood outside Chicago, and watched through the window as Alessandro planted tomatoes in the garden. He'd kept his word, transferred leadership to Luca, walked away from the Romano crime family with only the legitimate businesses, real estate investments, a small restaurant chain, consulting work. They lived comfortably, but not lavishly, and he was happy, really happy. She saw in the way he smiled now, easily, often. The doorbell rang. Sophie answered to find Elena, holding a college acceptance letter. I got in, the girl squealed. Full scholarship. I'm going to be a lawyer. Sophie pulled her into a hug. Elena visited often. She and Alessandro had set up a scholarship fund for young people escaping difficult situations. Elena was their first recipient. That evening, Sophie and Alessandro sat on their back porch, watching the sunset. "Do you miss it?" she asked quietly. "The power? The respect. I miss my brother. I'll always worry about Luca." Alessandro took her hand. "But miss the life? Never. I have everything I actually want right here. Even though I'm just a maid." Alessandro pulled her into his lap. "You were never just anything. You're the woman who saved me. From Victoria, from that life, from myself." He kissed her temple. "And for the record, you're not a maid anymore. You're an interior designer." Sophie smiled. She started her own business. Small, just getting started, but hers. Designing spaces that felt like homes, not showrooms. Interior designer married to a former Mafia boss. That would be a great tagline. Former Mafia boss married to the bravest woman in Chicago. Better tagline. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people are exactly where they're supposed to be. Sophie's phone buzzed. A text from Maria. "Visited the estate today. New housekeeper treats. Everyone well. You started something. Changed the whole culture. Thank you." Sophie showed Alessandro. He read it and smiled. "You stood up to one bully and changed an entire household. That's power, Sophie. Real power. The kind that actually matters. We did it together. We did." He stood, pulling her up with him. "Come on. Your mother's coming for dinner, and you know she'll be upset if we're not ready." They went inside, hand in hand, to cook dinner in their modest kitchen, in their modest house, in their modest but very real life. And Sophie thought about that first day, standing between Victoria and Elena, that moment of bravery that had seemed so small but had changed everything. She'd stood up to the Mafia boss's fiancée, and in doing so, she'd found love, freedom, and the courage to choose the life she actually wanted. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be invisible. Sometimes standing up for what's right changes more than you ever imagined. And sometimes the maid and the Mafia boss get their happy ending after all. Final CTA. Sophie stood up to everyone's worst nightmare and found the love of a lifetime, from a terrified maid to a woman who changed everything. This is the power of courage. If this story moved you, if Sophie's bravery inspired you, if you believe in standing up for what's right even when you're scared, subscribe to Awesome Stories. Hit that like button if you're proud of Sophie for never giving up. Share this story with anyone who needs to hear that one brave moment can change your entire life. Comment and tell us, what's the bravest thing you've ever done? Have you ever stood up to someone powerful to protect someone vulnerable? Your story matters. Share it. Thank you for joining Sophie and Alessandro's journey from fear to freedom, from impossible love to happily ever after. Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's looking fear in the face and saying, "Don't touch her," anyway. Until next time.